Welcome to Sunrise Life, the podcast where we have deep conversations with fellow freelance models. Today, I have Shaun Tia on the other line. Say hello.
Hello.
I'm so excited to have you, and I wanted to note immediately right off the bat that it's your photo that I'm using for the thumbnail logo for the podcast.
Yes, I'm very honored.
Thank you. No, you're an amazing photographer and you're just amazing all around. So I appreciate
Oh,
you.
thank you.
So thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I have so much stuff that I want to talk about, but I'd like to hear from your mouth if you could describe in brief summary a description of how you got into modeling and how your career has progressed and then where you're at now.
Sure. Yeah, I started in 2009, so quite a few years ago. I was actually still in high school, but I was mostly in like a technical college for chefing. So I was just like waiting to graduate with my friends. And so I had all this extra time, and that's when America's Next Top Model was like super big. So I was like, oh, I'll try. So I think I actually used Craigslist my first time to try to find a photographer, which is not great, but I did fall in love with it. I didn't wear any makeup to start and my eyelashes are blonde, so like I still have those photos and they're fun to look back on, but my whole thing once I fell in love with it was I just wanted art to hang in my house that I had a special part of being in because my creative talent is in food and we can't hang that on the wall. So I did not plan on this being like a career for me when I started, but I fell in love. I continued to do it. I traveled extensively. I never did the like driving tours that you and other models do. I always did the like cute little 5 day trips where I flew in, I modeled, and I flew back and then spent a couple of days at home. But I wanted to become the best model I could. So that's the whole reason I learned photography. I never planned on becoming a photographer. I just wanted to be a better model, but ended up falling in love with that too. And then I've been doing photography and modeling since I think 2013, extensively photography since 2015. But now I live in Salt Lake City full time and I try to do as much photography and modeling as I can here still. I do have like a revenue management job for a couple of resorts that I do for a steady income. That way I'm able to do the photography and modeling jobs that I really want to do. But yeah, that's in a cute little nutshell. That's my modeling and photography career.
Sweet. Yeah, and there's not as many people that doing it in Salt Lake City. Is that so?
That is so, yeah, it's pretty difficult out here to find the kinds of models and photographers that I would want to work with. But I did just invest in the Frontier winter fall like unlimited flight package, so I'm hoping to do more traveling this winter while it's awful and snowy here and see a bunch of my friends and do a lot of shoots.
Cool. Sweet. That sounds awesome.
It should be.
Cool. And so, as far as like crossing from modeling into photography, can you tell me what it was like, for you, how it affected your modeling once you got more into photography?
Absolutely, yeah. It was actually quite surprising. I thought initially learning photography would make me more of an asset for shoots. It actually ended up being the opposite as far as like the money producing shoots. Typically, with traveling models, we all know like the GWCs are the ones who pay the most typically. They're like the bread and butter while you're traveling. And unfortunately, there's a large percentage of those people who don't want a model who knows that they don't know what they're doing and they just don't want to learn. They're there to, pay you to hang out. And that just unfortunately had almost the opposite effect for like my money making part of my career.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I mean, I would take that back. I love the photography that I do and the people that I've met because of it. And I work with better people because I know photography, and those are the people that aren't afraid that I know photography.
Are there some photographers that like might have been of the GWC range, but that actually did ask you for photography advice during a photo shoot?
Absolutely. Yeah, they're just few and far between. And I probably was a little naive going into it, thinking that like I could get paid extra because I could also teach them photography, but for a majority of them, and those have come across. Have I would say probably maybe like 5 to 10 in the hundreds that I've worked with that have actually wanted to learn photography.
Yeah. And for me, even before starting to like shoot a little bit more, it's if you've modeled enough, you kind of know how the light comes across you and like if their camera angle is like a wide angle versus like a telephoto, like what you are going to look like based on where they're standing and how they're pointing it at you.
Yeah,
So, like, I think that some photographers like creative direction and suggestions, but a lot of them that are paying do seem to get offended by suggestions.
yeah, it's a tough line to like not toe across.
Yeah, yeah. I guess that would ruin it.
Yeah, a little bit for them. I'm happy it kind of, weeded out the people I didn't essentially want to work with at that point in my career anyway. So it all worked out.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Totally. I think that when I started, I had like a super high tolerance for like all types of behavior. And then I think you never think that you're gonna like change as you get older, but then everybody changes as they get older,
Yeah.
right? And my tolerance for different types of behavior also changed. So I'm assuming that that aspect of you becoming really good at photography and then you becoming older together kind of made that unanimous decision that we're only going to work with certain people.
Yeah, it was the perfect storm of like maturing into a, more established person in the industry.
So then with modeling now, you said you've got some really cool gigs in Salt Lake City that like keep you going. And then as far as anything else modeling related, like what else are you getting into or like are things that are on your horizon modeling wise?
Currently, I'm trying to put together like a photo book of past photos, like my favorite photos. So I'll have like a coffee table book. Other people can purchase it, but really it's for me. And then I'm hoping to do more pinups, which you have been a part of in my
Yeah.
sets, because I would love to be able to have a studio space here to be able to do that. But I really love doing the style of pinups that I do, which kind of toe the line, like erotic pinups, I guess, but overly sexy, not like super cute, but have some of that cute pinup because I want a whole set of that. I would like to be able to do like 100-page book of different pinups within the next, 5 years.
Sweet.
So that's on my to-do list. And then I'd also love to be able to do small little tours while I'm here in Utah because the landscape is gorgeous here, regardless of the lack of people in our industry. I would love to be able to take people around and show them how amazing it is.
Yeah, I agree. I've been there quite a lot recently too, and yeah, it's my favorite place.
Hmm. It's endless amounts of beautiful things to shoot. You just need the
True
people.
that. Yes, yeah, it's just a lot of driving and, some airplanes to hop across, but
Hmm.
totally worth it if you like beautiful landscapes.
Yeah.
Sweet. So when it comes to, I'm going to double back a little bit to segue. When it comes to photographers that have like personalities or like photo shoots that might be, I have this bit of my podcast that I like to call the photo shoot fail of the week. Can you describe a photo shoot that was crazy, either because the situation surrounding the shoot itself was crazy, or perhaps the photographer was crazy? Like, what's one of your crazy photo shoot stories?
I have a few.
You can tell more than one if you want.
I mean, the like scariest one that turned out okay. And honestly, like I when I was doing this all the time, I mean, I checked references on everybody. And I used to do the Arizona shootout when it was still a thing. And
Hmm.
there was a photographer there, and I did the Arizona shootout because I was local. And he was like, I'm going to Dubai like next week. Do you want to come with? I was like, let me double check with some people first. Because, like, what a cool. And I had worked with him before at the Arizona shootout, but never privately or in a different country.
Yeah.
So I checked some references, and the consensus was that he was annoying but harmless, which I was like, that's fine.
Okay.
I can deal with that. So the whole deal was that I would get the trip to Dubai and everything paid for and then model for him during that. So it wasn't paid on top of that,
Mm-hmm.
which was like, that's fine. I took this as like an opportunity to really go abroad and experience another country like that, which I hadn't been able to do. It it's a long flight, and I am
Yeah.
totally afraid. Like, if you've ever flown with me, like, I do not want to pee in the airport or the airplane bathroom. I think I will get sucked down. I know I won't, like, rationally, but it's like a 14-hour flight or whatever. And so got to get over that fear. And then when we got there, obviously my phone doesn't work in Dubai. So I wanted to get like a pay by minute phone. And
Mm-hmm.
he kept saying like, okay. But then as like days passed, he was like, yeah, we're not going to do that. And I was like, oh, well, I'm not okay with that because I could only contact people when we were at the hotel and through Wi-Fi. And so I had to like check in with like my mom and my boyfriend at the time, be like, I'm still alive. I'll talk to you in a couple hours, which was the first sketch and I was not really cool with. But at that point, I'm in Dubai. What am I going to do? Right. And then he only got one hotel room, double beds though.
Mm,
So we were sleeping in the same hotel
yeah.
room. And he had a special shirt with a racquetball sewn in so that if he went and laid on his back, he would and snored, he would roll over. It's like, well, at least he's considerate, right?
Wait, he had a shirt with a racket on the
A
back.
racquetball, like sewn into a pocket on the back of it so that it would be like
Oh,
uncomfortable if he turned over and slept on his back.
that's funny. I've never heard of that before, but I guess that's a good idea.
Yeah, I came prepared, but I don't want to see photographers in their nighties and sleeping shorts,
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
And it just got weirder from there. He at one point said that he wanted me to be at the hotel room waiting naked for him in heels and red lipstick because another model at one point had done that. And I
I
was
think I know who it is.
like, yeah, and I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. If you wanted something like that, you should have hired someone else. So from that point forward, if we weren't shooting, I was in like huge baggy pants, oversized shirt, no makeup, like hair in a bun, I was like, nope.
Oh, how awkward.
I know. And because I don't deal with those kind of, photographers anyway. And I was like, there's no way I would ever do that. Um, so we finally get to the end of the trip, and I fly back for him. So I'm flying back by myself, and he's trying to get me to take back with me multiple checked bags of his. He's not flying back. He just wants me to take his luggage that I have no idea what's in it back with me through like customs and everything else. And I was like, no, there's absolutely no way I'm taking your stuff back. Like, you bring it back when you fly.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder why he couldn't just ship it, I suppose.
I'm not sure. I didn't ask too many questions at that point. I was just happy I was going back home and alive. I just get super annoyed with photographers who expect that kind of stuff. Like, if you wanted that kind of stuff, you should be upfront in the beginning because
Yeah.
obviously there's girls out there who are more than happy to do that, but you can't take me to a different country and spring it on me while I'm basically captive.
Yeah, yeah, that would be really uncomfortable.
Yeah. But I got some cool self portraits while I was there, so it's fine.
That's good. He's basically like sort of expecting that you are going to pretend to be his girlfriend or something.
Yeah, and I'm not an escort. If he wanted an escort, he could have had one. Like, buy one of those.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there's an ongoing trend of that always happening where some photographers will hire a model and then a model that they know doesn't do certain things that are outside of their comfort zone and then try to get them to do that.
Yeah, it's like they get off on pushing boundaries.
Yeah, not cool.
Not cool. For anyone that's listening, that's not cool.
Yeah, sadly, I bet that the photographers that are doing that, they're probably not listening to this podcast, or maybe they are, and it just goes in one ear and out the other. They're like, "Oh, that story's not about me."
Definitely not about me.
That must have been some other photographer that took her to Dubai.
Uh-huh. I won't be getting a message.
Yeah, awkward. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's pretty crazy. Did you say you had more than one? Because I'm open to hearing another one if you want.
Well, I hadn't shot with him yet. There was somebody back when I was based in Arizona, there was a guy in Tucson, and I don't remember his name, unfortunately, because I'm sure lots of people would want to work with him after this story. And we were trying to set up a shoot. And before we even got to like dates and times and stuff, he was like, okay, I'm going to be real with you. I'm going to offer you $30,000 just to have sex with me. I was like,
What?
and I think this was like 2010 or 11, so I was still new
Whoa.
and I mean poor. I was, living off of the modeling and that's it. So I was like, $30,000 could buy me like a car that works. Like I would be set. So I actually talked to my parents about it. And my mom was like, we trust you, whatever you want to do. And I ended up not doing it. I told him, I'm not comfortable with this. I hope you find somebody that fulfills your needs or whatever. I'm trying to be like a
Whoa.
professional about it, even though this is obviously just like I would handle it differently now. And so I didn't get the $30,000. And then afterwards, my stepdad was like, okay, give me his number. I'll suck his dick for $30,000. I was like, okay,
Oh
well,
my
thanks for being proud of me for making the right decision, right?
God. What?
Yeah. So, like, thanks, parents.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I mean, when I first started modeling, I would sometimes get messages like that too. Not that amount. Usually there is like between $1,000 and $5,000 offers, maybe 10. I don't remember all of them, but yeah, I would get those offers and I would wonder like, are they even serious or is this just a trap?
Yeah, and I remember there was some way he verified it or whatever. I don't remember now. It's been over 10 years to the point where I was like taking it seriously. It wasn't like a obvious scam, I guess.
Yeah.
And I I'm pretty sure he was like, and you can bring someone, so that you feel safe or whatever. And it was like a whole thing because I was
Whoa.
seriously considering it for $30,000. I was like, I have sex all the time. Like, at least this time I'd get paid for it, right?
Right, yeah, especially when you're, like, young and need money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people are, some people are really lonely and they'll be willing to pay a lot of money. But it's interesting though, because there's tons of, like, sex workers that would do it for, like, way, way, way less. So it makes you wonder, like, why you, you know?
Yeah. I fall into a fetish just by existing as a redhead. So
Uh-huh, that's right.
just walking around as a fetish.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't even thought about that. Maybe they had a redhead fetish and like you were the one.
That's usually the case. And the other times I've been approached for the like $1,000 to $10,000 range has all been because I'm a natural redhead.
Have you had any other like weird interactions with people because of your redheadedness, or do you find that people have hired you specifically for your red hair?
Yeah, I most of the people that hire me, I would say do it because I'm a natural redhead. I've had mostly a landing strip the whole time I've been modeling, so it's pretty apparent. There was a guy who forced me to shave it during like I showed up and I had the landing strip and he made me shave it because he said it would look like a dick in the photos and I was like,
What?
okay, well, that was 2009. So
What the
I was like
fuck?
crying while shaving my landing strip.
Oh my
Um,
god.
but yeah, a lot of redhead lovers out there.
He said it would look like a
Yeah, he
dick?
said it would look like a penis if I had any hair down there. So, and it sucks because I like two of the photos that we had from that shoot. I was still new, but like there's one of them where like I can see my area and I just look, like I'm 9 years old because I have no hair down there, which is like I'm totally fine. You do whatever you want with your own hair, but for me, seeing it bare because I never had it there, I was like, oh.
Yeah,
So it kind of ruined the photos for me.
that sucks.
But yeah.
Yeah, people that like try to control what you're doing with your pubic hair is another like hot button topic.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't.
I had a guy email me once. We had a long conversation. He was blowing smoke up my ass. He's like, "Oh, you're so amazing. I've been following you. I love your underwater work. I love how you're open about your stretch marks, and you're such an amazing model. I love your posing." I'm like, "Okay, great. Yeah, that's cool. Thanks for the compliments." And he's like, "I'd love to hire you somewhere in the middle of nowhere where I live for a 2-hour shoot." I'm like, "Okay, but you have to grow your pubes." And I'm like, "Oh, so all of that like blowing smoke up my ass, telling me that I'm amazing, but it's kind of all deflated by the fact that you need me to grow my pubes out." And I was like, "No, I'm not growing my pubes out for a 2-hour shoot,
Yeah.
and I'm not
Ugh.
traveling to your city either."
Yeah, it's just gross. I've had lots of photographers be like, talk about my pubic mound and other gross things. So yeah, I don't miss working with the GWCs.
Yeah, it's like it can be like a part of the picture, but you don't have to like comment sexually about
Oh, it's
it,
just weird. I'm
because
gonna
that
hate
makes it
every single
weird.
second of the rest of our 3 hour shoot. Thanks.
Yeah, that sucks. Dang. And then when you're photographing, because now you're a lot more on the other side of the lens, like, do you have preferences for like, models like hair, pubic hair, tattoos, no
Not
tattoos,
a whole
any of
lot.
that?
I mean, the kind of preferences I have, like I don't care about your pubic hair, do whatever you want down there. For my photography, armpit hair's harder for me to deal with the stuff that I shoot, but it's not like a deal breaker. It's just like I'll shoot a different style than I typically would. And then like as far as the rest of your hair, I don't, it's whatever. I'll shoot bald to down to your ankles for hair on your head. The only like
Sweet.
tattoo issues I have is when people have like portraits of people on them, because then like there's another set of eyes that people want to make eye contact with when you have a photo. But even that is not like I won't shoot you because of that. I think like I shoot Read and Weep Haley for like all the time, and she has a big portrait
Yeah.
of a girl on her thigh, which shows up in I would say 80% of our photos. But and I shoot her a ton, so it's definitely not a deal breaker at all.
Yeah, that's cool. Are there any deal breakers?
Attitude.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's definitely a
I do
big
not do
one.
well with bad attitudes, so that's my big deal breaker.
I have a hard time thinking that somebody might be having a bad attitude with you just because I feel like I know you so well and you seem pretty mellow and easy to work with.
If you, yeah, I feel like that for like the people that do know me. I think, especially throughout the past decade or so, I definitely got the. I've been told I have a reputation as a bitch, which
What?
yeah, which is fine honestly to me because it keeps a lot of the riffraff out. You know, people that I wouldn't really want to shoot anyway if they want, and like people that know me, like if someone actually checked a reference on me, no one's going to say that I'm a bitch, right? Like if you're actually have worked with me, so I'm not. It's
Yeah.
never super bothered me. I think just because I don't have like a huge online presence. I don't interact with fans the same way others do. I have a very like cut and dry. I don't put a lot of personal stuff online, and I will say no to photographers. So I think I got a lot of that reputation from like a photographer bringing out like a sexy devil costume for me to wear in like a hotel room and me being like, nope, I'm not doing that. Or them telling me to smile and I will be like, nope, I'm not a smiley model. Like, hire somebody else.
Yeah, I see that topic coming out frequently here and there too, where photographers ask a model to smile, and in that moment they don't want to smile. It does feel like an awkward
Yeah,
command.
you don't own me because you paid for 3 hours of my time. I'm not going to smile for you. If you were a decent human being and we got along together, you would make me smile naturally and be able to capture it, but I'm not going to fake smile for you. No, thank you.
Yeah, and every time I see a fake smile photo, it is immediately apparent that it's a fake smile photo.
Yeah, the pained look behind the eyes where you're like, oh no.
Yeah, get me out of here. Like, what time is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand why people like pictures of people smiling, but you can't force, like you said, you can't force it to happen because it's not
Yeah.
real. even if you're like, you know, going through a range of emotions as you're like posing for the camera or whatever, like all the emotions are feigned, you know, when you're posing, would you say that like, you know, you change your facial expression here and there and a lot of it is you're acting, right?
Yeah, I'm pretending when I'm the entire time I pose. I pretend I'm a dancer, you know. I'm pretending that I am a dancer and I'm afraid of the light, or I love the light, or I love this tree, or I want to be away from the tree. Like I'm pretending and like emoting these kind of emotions, but and I have photos of me smiling naturally from photographers who have made me smile, but that one's hard to fake.
Yeah. Yeah, being told to look right into the camera and then smile at me like I'm your boyfriend or
Aw.
like the camera. That's like the cringiest thing that any photographer. And I know that most of them aren't doing it from like a
Yeah,
nefarious
they're not
like
malicious.
position, but it's still it's still uncomfortable. It almost makes me feel like this is an entertainment session for you, not a photo
Yeah,
shoot.
yeah, I get that.
But I mean, maybe that's just like my experience compound over time. Like just assuming that a lot of people that are hiring traveling nude models are doing so because they want to be entertained and because they're
Right.
lonely and they want those photos of you smiling at
Yeah, like
them.
you're having the time of your life.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah, it can be uncomfortable, but it's like there's definitely a lot of times that I would do all of those dances,
Mhm.
but it just got old after a while.
Yeah, I think when most of us start out, we're a lot more open to playing the part, and then as you grow, you're like, "No, I don't need to do this," and you're able to stand up for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and I find that a lot of great photos come out of that too. Like when a lot of your photos are just kind of like willy-nilly, like I'm being the entertainer, I'm gonna please you, you know, you're gonna sit in the same position and keep snapping the shutter button while
Mhm.
I like bend over backwards and do all the best possible poses, then it's like you're trying really hard, like we like tried so hard to be like the best when we started out, but I feel like we don't even have to try that, like you shouldn't have to try that hard to
Mhm.
create a good photo. The photographer should work with you to make it all
Yeah,
happen.
it should be a partnership.
Yeah,
Yeah, in a
but
perfect world.
so to me, for me, by the way, like when I first started touring modeling, you were definitely one of the models that I looked up to because a lot of photographers talked about how amazing your posing was and how beautiful your skin is. And, you know, Shaun Tia is the best traveling model like ever.
Oh,
And I was like, oh,
goodness.
I have to meet her one day. And I eventually did. And I was so happy. But there is this sense when you're posing for a lot of these photographers that hire traveling nude models that you have to like try to be as good as the other models at posing, so you try to learn all these different poses and come up with your own, and there's a lot that I've seen other models do, like when I see their poses that I'm just amazed. I'm like, wow, they come up with something that I could never have come up with. But there is a bit of a competition in a friendly sense of like, oh, how creative can I get like as the model.
Yeah,
Did you
and
feel that as you were traveling too?
oh, absolutely. That's part of the territory. And honestly, I wanted to be the best that I could be, and I could only be the best if I learned from the best. So I tried to find people and models that I could learn from and photographers once I started photography because I feel like that's the best way to learn is from other people that you admire. So, um obviously like it sounds silly now, but like I used my whole social media used to just be all models of all levels and everything else and photographers. And I would constantly be comparing myself to that and looking at my photos very unbiased to try to, even if it was a fantastic photo that I loved, I'd be like, what can I do better? What should I have done? Should I have had my pinky over here? I'd practice like the waterfall fingers and like being disgusted by what I picked up so that my hands are super pretty. Or, I was obsessed, I would say, with trying to be the best. So that definitely came into play in my career.
Yeah. Who are some of the models that you were looking up to, like back then when you were doing that?
When I first started, there was a model. She was based in the Southwest somewhere named Tia, which was funny because that's the last part of my name. And I haven't been able to find. She left the industry, I think, shortly after I entered it. And then Ivory Flame, who is
Yeah.
Europe, because she was like a redhead that I could obviously look up to and did more of the artistic style that I wanted for like the art that hangs in my house. And I actually got to work with her thanks to Randall Hobbit a few years ago, which was like my bucket list item because I had looked up to her for so many years. Um, and you were honestly a huge inspiration with your posing, especially when you started doing all the yoga.
Oh, thanks.
And so it's just I try to be good about my 10 minutes of yoga daily to be stretchy because I want to be able to do handstands and cool poses and stuff. But that was you inspiring me. And then like all the art stuff is usually like Ivory Flame. And like I've had a
Cool.
few top notch models that I really enjoy watching their careers.
Yeah, same. I've definitely had like a good handful of inspirations that it's like pretty much almost all the ones that I looked up to that I went to go meet, I ended up really liking.
Mm-hmm.
Almost everybody. Not everybody, but like most everybody.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because the perception of like modeling, like when I first got into it, was that like America's Next Top Model, like you were mentioning before, like it's all competitive and we're trying to get to the top, which I mean we kind of are, but in the end it seems like a lot of us have kind of like become comrades.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, like when Patreon and OnlyFans and everything came out, we were able to take some of the power back towards us. I think that helped a huge amount for us to not be so reliant on traveling on nonstop and working with GWCs. They lost some of their power over us. So now instead of like competing constantly with each other, we're able to hold each other up and be more supportive.
Hell yeah, and then photograph each other also.
Yeah, I love that part.
Yeah. We need to set up another one of those for real.
Yes.
Yeah. I have another question that I'd like to ask that I do ask everybody on the show. I call it the rising phoenix era of your life. Can you describe something, whether it's related to your modeling or not, that you were faced with a challenge that you had to overcome?
I feel like, I mean, we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. When I started photography, I was really hopeful. It was going to like propel my career. And it was kind of a tough thing to learn that it was, for me at that time, the opposite of like, I'm going to have to get another job to support myself because I'm not getting the same amount of bookings where I could pull, 4,000 plus on a trip. Was now pulling, 1,200, and the same
That's
people that
significant.
yeah. And I mean, I never went into a trip with hard costs. Like I always had the flight and the hotel paid for by a by a photographer for the trip. And so like if nothing else it was a free vacation. If I booked nothing else on top of that, I was still okay. I got experience and photos and whatever else, but I still needed to live when I was back home and pay rent and eat food.
Yeah.
So taking a hit substantially when I became pretty decent at photography and had to pivot um, pretty heavily into trying to find another source of income. And I mean, I'm a classically trained chef. I went to Le Cordon Bleu. I have my associate's degree, so it's not like I was ever, you know, I didn't have an idea of what I wanted to do outside of modeling. It's just once I once you get into a 9 to 5 job, or as a chef, a noon to midnight job, that where you get no paid vacation, that pretty much limits your traveling modeling from that point on.
Yeah.
So that was a hard thing to have to come to terms with and to deal with. But ultimately, I think it for the better. I love where I am now. I love that I started with modeling and built the relationships with traveling models as friends, so that now that I am an established photographer, my friends who are amazing artists themselves want to work with me and come to where I am. So I feel ultimately that it was a good thing, but it was hard at the time.
Yeah, I can imagine any of these like severe reductions in income that force you to change your life are hard. Sucks, but I mean it sucks in a good way, I guess, because you're more doing what you want.
Yeah, it's all happened. I mean, things happen for a reason, right? You
Yeah,
make the best out of what you're dealt, and I think I did that with, and I have freedom now in the job that I currently have, working from home, and I get to travel still. So now I'm much better off to do my photography and modeling.
sweet. That's awesome. What, do you have any upcoming trips?
Well, I leave Sunday to go to Santa Cruz.
Oh, cool.
So coming up real soon, and then immediately after that, I go to Houston, and then after that, I go to Priest River, Idaho.
Priest
Um,
River, Idaho. What's there?
my best friend from elementary school, so
Ah,
we'll
cool.
go ride horses in the mountains and have some fun.
That's kick ass. And then Houston and Santa Cruz, is that photography related or?
Santa Cruz is actually like a vacation, so Nate and I will travel up there. We'll do some photography. We'll probably see Jen Jones while we're there, and hopefully go down to a couple of beaches, Big Sur, hang out in Monterey, and then she sent a wonderful list of recommendations. So we're hoping that we'll be able to like see some cool trails and take some photos while we're out there. Houston is a work trip. I have to do a conference, and it's awful there right now, weather-wise. So
Yeah,
I'm not planning on doing photography while there, but I will in Idaho.
nice. Well, that'll be fun. That'll be a lot of cool, interesting, and different places.
Yeah, I'm excited. It'll be. I don't think I've ever been to actual Santa Cruz. I've been to San Francisco, but I don't think I ever went far south enough to go to Santa Cruz or Monterey.
I went there once to visit Teresa when she was living there.
Yeah, I saw Teresa while in San Fran. So
Oh, cool.
yeah,
Cool. And she's another amazing model who became an amazing photographer, like yourself.
yeah, and her photography like emulates film so beautifully. And I know she does Polaroids and stuff too, but I love her style and her color grading and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, so awesome to see like my fellow friends like doing all this cool stuff and like, getting published and getting good gigs and like diversifying their careers. I always wondered when I was like, in my mid 20s, like, all right, we're all doing this like traveling modeling thing, but like how long am I actually going to know these people for? Like are we going to remain friends beyond modeling or keep in touch with each other at all? Cuz like I have the sense that like modeling it is in its core competitive and very superficial. So I was like thinking to myself, like how lasting are these relationships, but I'm finding that like maintaining connection with you and like a handful of other people, like you can be friends with people that you worked with through traveling modeling.
Yeah, I think we're all bonded in a way with our experiences. And I think your podcast really emulates that and shows it because we've all dealt with similar experiences, and no one else really outside of our industry can really understand. I like that this podcast gives people a peek into what we experienced and like a little window into our careers.
Yeah.
But you've been there. So like you and Floofy and Lilius and everybody has been in the positions that like I've been in. So it's super easy to have a real connection and friendship with these people.
So, and lifelong, I would hope.
Yeah, and then people who haven't been doing freelance traveling nude modeling wouldn't have the same types of experiences that we can relate with each other about.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you start talking about it, it's like, oh, we actually have all this weird stuff in common.
Yeah. And a lot of it's bonding through trauma. So,
Yeah,
healthy.
yeah, true that. So, with your other friendships, do you have like friends from, I mean, assuming you have friends from outside of modeling, and like how do they like engage with you with your creative photography? Have you ever had pushback from other friends or family when it comes to nude modeling or photography?
I don't have a lot of friends outside of modeling. I have like a best friend who I met through being a chef, and I've actually shot her. So,
Nice.
and then I am attempting to make friends here in Utah. It's been over 2 years. I'm still struggling because they find out what I do. They say they're okay with it, and then they ghost me, which sucks. Um,
Yeah.
the only real pushback that I've had that's been like life altering is growing up. My dad's side of the family and the woman that he married that he's no longer with, they caused a lot of issues due to my modeling, which were unfortunate. And my dad knows the error of his ways now, which is great. I actually was just in Kentucky last week visiting him. But I mean, it was nearly a decade of not talking to him from the point
Wow.
from like 2009 on, because of how they treated me and my mom. I mean, they literally printed out photos that like GWCs had taken from of me and brought them to court, saying like that I was a whore and didn't need college support. Like
What?
it was pretty horrendous to the point where I was not going to deal with it anymore. So
Are they like really religious or something? Like what the fuck?
not necessarily. Growing up, they were more religious than like my mom's side, but I mean, my mom was an exotic dancer. Like when so like my dad was fine with it. So I don't really. It's the woman that he married is unfortunately just a horrible, horrible person, and
Sucks.
she hated me because I was my mom's daughter. So
Yeah.
anything because my mom was, someone that my dad truly loved, and he didn't truly love that woman. She just baby trapped him. So
Oh,
it's just a bad situation all around. And my dad worked really hard, so he wasn't home a lot when I got to visit, and there was a lot of abuse and other bad things. But I don't think those things define you.
yeah. Damn, that's rough.
Yeah. But everybody else has been pretty cool about it, except for the ladies here in Utah who ghost me. At least
Right.
send me a breakup message.
Do they refer to your like modeling or photography when they give you the breakup message or?
Oh no, they literally stop responding to my text messages. They literally like just ghost into nothingness.
That sucks. And you think it's because they looked you up online and they saw stuff they didn't like or something?
Yeah, I'm very open about what I do here because I don't want to start to build a friendship with people who are going to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky right now I found somebody who is awesome and seems like she will be a good friend here, but like I spent like 4 months hanging out with this girl and she knew what I did and said she was fine with it, and she spent my birthday with me, but like we went back to my house where I have art hanging, and she had her husband with her, and I think that like freaked her out, was that like I have nude art hanging in my house. And it wasn't
Oh,
even of me, the stuff that they saw. It was of Vivian Cove that Nate had taken. And like there's a butt. There's not even like boobs or bush or anything. But I think it freaked her out, and she just like from that point forward, she was just gone. So
damn.
I think it's
That
just too
sucks.
much. Even people who have like left the Mormon church here are still like so ingrained because they grew up that way that like seeing it is like just too much for them.
Damn. I've mentioned this before in my podcast, but I feel like to be offended by nudity is so foreign to like my lifestyle and people in my life that when I hear about stuff like that, I'm just like, oh my god, how rude, or how mean.
Yeah.
I forget that there's people that are like really shamed and their life is still ruled by that shame, even though it seemed like you guys have been hanging out for months and she seemed okay with what you did. I guess seeing a photo and having a visceral reaction to it, I guess, is a whole different experience.
Yeah, I don't think she was prepared for having to face it face to face.
Yeah, it's not like you were keeping your photography a secret. Like
No,
she's seen your Instagram and stuff.
I believe she had at that point. I mean, there's no nipples and stuff on Instagram, but
Right.
like you can definitely see the style of what I shoot there. But it's not like she followed me on Instagram and saw every post, so I'm not really sure the extent of what she knew. But I mean, the stuff that we have hanging in the house is very classy art nudes,
Yeah.
like the stuff you'd see in galleries. So like, and I am not the person that's going to be taking down photos off my wall to placate somebody else. This is my home. I'm going to have my art in it. So
Yeah.
that's unfortunately that's just what it is. If you don't want to come to my home, that's fine. But
Yeah.
it's rough.
I do have a few nude arts hanging up in my RV, and
Hmm.
only when I've invited my dad over have I considered like taking down the calendar off the wall or whatever. But then it makes me feel like
Right.
well, he's coming to my place, but it's my dad, so
Yeah, and I mean Nate and I had that conversation too because his dad is very Mormon.
oh,
There were I think the first time we had him over, he did end up taking that down. But this last time that he had him over, which was probably like a month ago, he kept it up, and I was super proud of him because I was like, "There's nothing to be ashamed of here." So, and his dad was pretty cool about it. So,
cool. Well, that's positive.
yeah.
It's always good to hear because you're worried about, getting shunned. And sadly, it does seem to be, I guess, in your dad's new wife's case, a jealousy issue.
Hmm.
But in a lot of cases, it's also a religious issue. So why hate on the bodies that we like all have? I don't know. Like,
Yeah, like you said, it's so alien to me. I mean, I spend so much time naked and around other naked people, so to me, it's like
devil
nothing.
worship. Devil worship, harlots. Yeah, I don't
Yep.
know. Like, I think people's minds just go to the worst possible option. Like, perhaps, oh, she's luring other men in and they must have a nefarious relationship and everything has got to be from this, like, evil angle somehow, or Satan
Right.
has a grip on her, or I don't even know. Like, you know, I used to go to church, so I got the indoctrination of all that stuff.
Hmm.
Like you're being controlled by the devil or whatever if you're into lustful activity, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I've had those people though, this religious lady say in the same sentence how much of like a harlot, lustful, demon worshiping person I am, and then say how much I look like a teenage boy with my flat chest, and I'm like,
Which
okay,
one is
well,
it?
which one do you want to go with so I can respond correctly?
That's really odd. And that was somebody in Salt Lake City that you had to interact with? Like,
No, that was a comment on, I think it was Facebook back in the day.
oh,
Like
geez.
it was an implied photo, and I mean, I was also there's one Corwin Prescott shot of me, and I was like hunched over and bending, and my like arm had made it implied. So like I had more boob than normal because my boobs were gravity was taking my boobs down.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I have the most boob hair than I think any of my other shots, but still flat chested teenage boy.
Dang. Well, I hope that Salt Lake City loosens up a little bit on their Mormon stuff too, but like I hadn't really thought of like it really affecting interactions in business down there, but I guess it does more than other cities, like
Yeah,
because
it's rough not having grown up Mormon or really living here ever before this or even visiting. It is rough. I like to shoot, and the church controlling every part of this state is just nuts to me.
yeah. Well, I mean, you got to fight the good fight with your art and keep on keeping on, right?
Yeah, that's the plan. I'm gonna fly all you guys in and bring, the devil here.
Yes, we'll have our naked nipple devil worshipping party together.
Absolutely. You can go up into the mountains and do a little ritual.
all the religious GWCs listening to my podcast are gonna stop listening to it now.
Oh no. I'm sorry if I caused you to lose any viewership.
Oh no, it's fine. I'm sure it's kind of weird, and I'll let you go here in a minute. But kind of funny that, like, on the flip side, I know that I've posed for a lot of photographers who've told me that they're Christian, and they
Hmm.
also say, "Oh, but I justify my nude photography because God created the human body." In my beliefs, and I think that photographing it is celebrating it, and I'm like, okay, I mean, I can get on that bandwagon without being religious, I suppose. But then the same indoctrination is the opposite for other people. They're like, well, I'm a Christian and I think our bodies are nasty and we shouldn't look at them. So,
Right. Yeah, it's interesting hoops that everyone jumps through.
yeah, people just kind of twisting the narrative to fit what they want it to fit, I guess.
Hmm.
Cool. Well, Shaun Tia, thanks so much for taking the time to do this podcast episode with me. I think that we had a super great time going through it.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and I'll catch up with you again because I think it would be great to set something up. I know I was trying to set something up in Florida, but I don't know if that's coming to fruition or not.
Yeah, maybe I don't know if we need to have like a smaller group just like plan it and make it happen, and then the rest we can just join.
Yeah, yeah. Good point. Cool. Let's do something. I need to get
Yeah,
out of the house a little bit more too.
awesome. Oh, I'd love that.
I'll leave a link to your Instagram and your website in the show notes description so people can check you out. And otherwise, it's been a great call, and I'll let you go now.
Okay, have a great day.
Bye.